name is Maria Garcia. I'm the author of the book We Made San Diego. This is my second book, and the purpose of this book was to tell about our history in San Diego, because there's so much history and we're not in the history books. You're lucky if you find a few pages on us. And in San Diego, we are the history of San Diego. So I felt it was very important that we share stories. Basically, they're oral history stories and a lot of pictures. I'm hoping that people will take time to read it and learn more about not only our culture, but about our history. William Bill Virchis was born in Mexico City 80 years ago. His feet were almost completely backwards, and over 45 surgeries later, and with the help of braces, he was able to walk. His father's work brought the family to California, and though it was planned that they were going to move to Los Angeles, his mother made the decision to live in Chula Vista. Bill will share stories about his childhood, and I think it's important that you know that Bill did not have an easy childhood. He entered school not speaking English. He was very self-conscious about his braces and would hide them in the bushes on his way to school and pick them up on his way home. His brother and sister blossomed at the school as ASB offers and king and queen of various dances. As a child, Bill used this acting at the Old Globe Theater to blossom. Bill will tell us stories on how an actor on his way to New York ended up as a temporary teacher at SouthWestern for over 30 years. He has won endless awards and recognitions. In September of 2024, he was recognized by Southwestern College by being presented with their Jaguar Award. When I referred to him as an icon in our community, he seemed to be uncomfortable. What would you call a person that has worn so many hats, that has changed the theater to recognize that Latinos should be part of the theater? I call him the multi-talented Bill Virchis. Sit back and listen to Bill tell his very personal story. You've just heard me tell a little bit about Bill. But Bill is an icon in our community, and he has a new project. But I want to tell you where this project originated, and thanks to Bill, we now have it in our community still. It originated in 1939 at the neighborhood house, and it was inside the auditorium. It was such a well-packed auditorium that they had to take the play outside, and community members played different parts. And then the pastorela, even though everybody encouraged to do it every year, it faded away and died. And then lo and behold, Bill Virchis came, and in what year?
Well, it was like 1989. 88.
And tell us about it. How did that happen?
Well, it was a discovery of a play that was being done in San Juan Bautista by Luis Valdez. It was called La Pastorela. And they did it in tandem every year with the Virgen play. And when I met Daniel and Luis Valdez of Teatro Campesino, I went to see the play. And I go, I know this play. It's from Mexico. You know, because there's 100 pastorelas in Mexico. I go, my God, you've been doing this forever here. He said, yeah, since the 60s. And I said, well, we'd like to do it in Chula Vista, you know, at Southwestern College where it was. But at that time, we were working at the Old Globe Theater. We created, there was a program called Teatro Meta, which was the first educational program of a regional theater. And Craig Knoll, the artistic producing director, loved Mexico. I think he was the most Mexican Norwegian guy in the world. So he said, we have to do this here. His dream was to have a junior theater as a multicultural theater. Okay. You know, so he sent us to Mexico, where we saw all these pastorelas. And we went to the last pastorela was at Tepoztlan, which is the classical. It runs a week. There's a whole festival, and everybody eats, and it has a merry time. So we brought that play to the Globe Theater, and we were there for 5 years. And then we moved to the San Diego Repertory for 20 years. And that's how it began, not knowing the history that you told me about it. Yeah. Because the Pastorela had been here in Old Town. When Old Town was created, they used to do the Bandini Pastorela with the Posadas, you know, the journey of Joseph and Mary trying to get a house, right, when they were fleeing. So that's what the concept was. So that's how we started it. And now it's 36 years, the longest theatrical holiday tradition in Southern California.
Were you nervous about starting it here in San Diego? How did you feel it would go over?
Well, I was nervous because it was a Spanglish Chicano version of it, you know. But I also was nervous because there was, as you know, the pastorelas are irreverent, you know, they're political, they're agitprop theater. That's why Teatro Campesino, I was amazed because their theater was right into the political, wonderful theatrical process. You know, Shakespeare was very political. Everybody was, you're right? So the pastorela, the nervousness was, okay, how do we do the songs in English? You know, how do we keep the Latino tradition? And how do we get an audience? So it was in Spanglish, and most of it is in English, but all the songs are kept in the traditional Mexican tradition of the pastorela.
I want to talk a little bit about your childhood and how you got to San Diego. I know you were born in Mexico City. Tell us about that time in your life.
Well, I don't remember when I was born, but I do remember my life in Mexico City. You know, I was challenged when I was born. You know, I had probably extreme club feet, right? Almost my feet were backwards, and it was a fate that my father knew one of the most famous surgeons in Mexico, Guillermo Alejandro Simbrón, and I was at the hospital with him. So he looked at me and said, you know, he told my mom, this child's going to be ours. You know, he's going to walk. And so he made me his example. So he made me walk. You know, at 7 years old, I started to walk. So I'm named after him. My real name is Guillermo Alejandro Virchis de Olvera.
My God. It's a mouthful.
Yeah, a mouthful, right? But anyway, what happened is that from that day on, you know, I never walked. I actually ran. I was like the Forrest Gump of Mexico. You know, I would take my braces off to go to school and hide them, and then I started wrestling. You know, and wrestling saved my athletic sport, and it was the metaphor for life, la lucha, life. You know. And that's how it started, you know. And the challenges of it was that my grandmother actually raised me, because my father was an airline executive and my mother was a professional lady, you know. But they loved me. But my grandmother came, you know, I was my grandmother's child.
How nice. Well, how did you end up from Mexico City in Chula Vista?
Well, that's a journey that's like another tale. My father, who was a manager of Aeromexico, he was a sales manager of the West Coast. There was only one airline in Mexico called Mexicana de Aviación, and they had all the routes to the United States. So Miguel Alemán, who was one of my dad's friends, who became the president of Mexico at that time, was in the government. And they had the airline named Aeromexico. LAMSA, it was the first one. It was like PSA. I don't know if you remember PSA,
of course
Pacific Southwest Airlines. It was like that little commuter. So they expanded to Aeronaves de Mexico, which is the Aeromexico now. They wanted my father to open the routes of Aeromexico, Aeronaves de Mexico, to the United States besides Mexicana de Aviación. So we were on our way to L.A. to live there. His office was there and in San Francisco. And we went to Tijuana and lived there right by the bull ring by Silvestre. In fact, we met Armando Silvestre, which later became an actor friend of mine, and the Mr. Universe in Tijuana. And we stayed in Tijuana for about 4 months. Then we went to San Isidro for about 2 months, I think. And then we were driving to L.A., and my father had bought a new Plymouth. And my mom wanted to bless everything. She blessed everything, you know, the dogs, the donkeys, everything. And so we bought the car, and we were traveling through this Highway 5, South Coast or something. Broadway was the place. Which is Chula Vista, you know, and there was a big sombrero. I don't know if you remember that. You were too young, but there was this big billboard with a sombrero and a serape, and the guy, welcome to Chula Vista. So my mom went, you know, that's pretty close to home. So we were driving by 3rd Avenue and St. Rosalima, the church. She says, let's stop there, because my mother was very Catholic. She was actually raised in a convent. She was a Salesiano. It's a sect of artistic, that the nuns are artists and like singing and stuff. So the priest blessed our car, and my mom saw a house across the street and says, I'm staying here. I'm staying close to God and close to my country. And my dad commuted for 35 years to San Francisco and Los Angeles, and we were in Chula Vista.
How was your life in Chula Vista?
It was happy days. Okay. Just like happy days. It was an incredible city to grow up. It was a time of innocence, a time of expectation, because we just got out of the World War II. And Eisenhower was the president. In fact, he came to Chula Vista. It was an amazing time. It was like Happy Days, the movie. It was exactly like that, There was no racism. I mean, we didn't know. We had no idea of what that was at that time, right? My father, who was raised in New York, was a Renaissance man, spoke 3-4 languages, and my mother also was an intelligent woman. So there was no you're Mexican, but you're an American. So learn the. Nobody spoke Spanish. I didn't see one Latino teacher in all my elementary. There was no reflection of my country. So when we crossed the border, we became American. And it was a very strange thing because the identity, right, was all kept in the house. The food, the traditions, everything. My mother refused to speak English. She wanted to keep our language. She said, one day that will be the golden nugget. And come to pass it was, right? She spoke nothing, and she suffered because, the food, everything. Mexico was at our house. It wasn't outside. We crossed the border to go shopping every 2 days at the mercado. It was really neat. So Chula Vista became a place of growth, of experiencing other cultures, right? And mostly finding a way of the American way of how things should be. Education was important to my father. Education was important to this country. But we never lost who we were. My father said, you can't lose who you are.
What high school did you attend?
I went to F Street's elementary school. I went to Chula Vista Junior High, the Cavaliers, and the Chula Vista Spartans. I was a cheerleader and a wrestler there. My mother and father had, I have a wonderful brother, Ricardo, and a wonderful sister, intelligent people. They were all world, they were homecoming kings and homecoming queens and ASB presidents and all that. Well, they were the bread and I was the jamon. It was like a torta. They were the bread. I was this jamon, this wild kid that I had my child. I don't think I've ever grew up, In fact, I didn't want to grow up to be a man. It was so weird because I saw these men, these big guys, and I don't want to be like that. So I was this primitive child. I was like Jungle Boy. I was an inhibited, there was no law to me. I did what I could. And my mother, the freedom to be creative. My mom bought me a guitar in Tijuana that I still have, she would sing with me. She was a declamadora, a very famous spoken word artist in Mexico, the declamadora. And so I saw drama. We had these gigantic parties for days, and she would recite poetry and people would cry and, the power of the word. And so when I loved drama, I always loved theater. I used to do a lot of voices. I won a national contest it was a Fiesta de la Luna. Mm-hmm. Fiesta de Luna was like the little Del Mar Fair in Chula Vista. So they had a talent contest to go to Ted Mack Amateur Hour in New York. So I did all these voices. Jimmy Durante, I got a million of them, that kind of stuff. And I did voices, so I won the contest. So from that day on, the power of making people laugh and cry and stuff, I felt that was an incredible gift that my mother gave me. My brother and sister were very strict. I was the guy. I was, and that's who I was.
So how did you end up going into acting? I mean, you won a talent contest, but you could have left it there. What kept you going?
Well, it was funny. My dad saw an ad in the paper that Craig Knoll had this dream of junior theater, I think I told you, multicultural theater. There was an audition for a play, Midsummer Night's Dream, at the Globe Theater. Now, at the Globe Theater at that time there was a community theater was professional, and then in the summers the professional company would come. So they were doing a version of Midsummer Night's Dream, and they needed a kid to play Puck, you know. They had auditions. My dad said, "You're perfect. You're this wild little fairy guy, you know. Oh, what fools these mortals be," kind of thing, you know. So I auditioned, and I hardly spoke English. 9 years old, I just started to speak English. So I spoke Shakespeare before, the these and thous, right? Garbage in, garbage out. So heightened language was part of the process with my mother also. So she translated for me, you know. She was literary. You know, we had Shakespeare in Spanish, and so she said, "This is what it." So that's how I started at the Globe Theater, 9 years old, and then at 12 and 13, I took acting classes. Then when I was in high school, I won the Atlas Award, which was like the Tonys at that time. You know, playing Pancho in The Night of the Iguana.
Oh my God! Okay.
Which is a really ironic thing because my dad helped Houston be in Puerto Vallarta, in Mismaloya, the island Mismaloya, where my father, who was the airline executive, he knew a lot of movie stars because he gave the permits for like John Wayne to film in Mexico, to film and bring the crews down there. So he knew a lot of stars and stuff. So in Mismaloya, they did this Night of the Iguana. Well, guess what? Right before the movie, we did the play, and I played Pancho. I mean, the irony of connecting the dots in my life have been like a spoke. You know, everything has been connected one way or another. Isn't that amazing?
So where did you study acting?
Literally at the Globe. Oh. There was no real acting. You know, I had theater at Chula Vista Junior High. Mm-hmm. And then I had theater at Chula Vista High School. Wonderful. Edna Lau was my drama teacher. I took one class. But I had become a professional, so this high school thing was weird. You know, there was no high school play. I mean, there is no such thing as that. It's children's play. They're just plays that children have to be in, or theme. So I was tossed in an adult world at 9 years old. There was show business. It was professional. You know your lines. You had to be on time. But in high school, you know, it was like community theater, and you know, no, I don't think so. You know, but I learned from her. The craft of crafting plays that dealt with high school people, right? Okay. Which fed me when a great piece of knowledge when I went to teach at Chula Vista High School. My first teaching job was at my old high school. I mean, this whole thing is like this circle, you know, that was meant to be. And I taught at the same classroom as my teacher.
How did you end up there?
Yeah, this is. I think I bring heart attacks everywhere. Wait. Well, I got a call. I had graduated from San Diego State University. I was on my way to get my PhD.
In what?
In theater and wrestling. And so what happened was that I was very fortunate that I graduated with a class at San Diego State that was unbelievable. You know. We had actors like Carl Weathers, my friend, who just passed away, by the way. He played Apollo Creed. Julie Kavner, who did the voices of The Simpsons. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Woody Allen's favorite actress was Julie Kavner, you know. And a bunch of actors that I could go on forever, you know. Bob Hayes of Airplane, all these people were in my class. So what happened is because I was much older, and I had this professional thing, I became a director instead of an actor at San Diego State. So I directed some of my fellow classmates. So when I graduated, I got all these scholarships and blah, 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 you know. And so I was the best actor or something weird, Sable Jones scholarship. So anyway, I was on my way to New York to my PhD. And then I get a call that my high school teacher had a heart attack. Would I take over the class? And I go, wait a minute, I was a crazy cheerleader. You want me back? It was like the Welcome Back Carter program, just like that. I go, you must. In fact, the first time I got to Chula Vista High School, my old Spanish teacher thought I was there to be a custodian. That's what. My math teacher asked me if I was back in high school to get my diploma. He didn't know I had a diploma. So I went back and I taught 1 year at Chula Vista High School, and I said, I'll only do this for 1 year. So I had to call Lock Haven and say, can I have a sabbatical? And so I stayed there for 1 year, the most wonderful year. It was like fast time at Richmond High. Everybody was stoned. And it was like, really, I mean, I had those people. We did Angel Baby, which was the first play of Grease. I pirated that play before it opened on Broadway. We actually didn't have the music. We had the book because there was this fireside books that you could buy and get, and there were plays. They were actually plays that were published before Broadway. So I got this thing called Grease, and I go, we'll call it Angel Baby. So we did it, and so it was a wonderful time. But I thought, this is not for me, because I was like 4 or 5 years older than the kids. And they would all come to my house. Literally, they would come to my house, hundreds of kids. You go, wait a minute. I can't do this, So then I said, okay, we're going back to college. Guess what? I get a call.
Another
call. We're going to have a play at a brand new high school called Emeritus Vista High School. We're doing Annie, Get Your Gun, but we needed a director. But you have to use like 100 kids and stuff, and because blah, blah, blah. So I did. But my wife says, how much money are you going to get? She goes, $1,000. Oh, you got to do it because that's your plane ticket to New York, right? So we did it, and I'm leaving again, and I get a call from Southwestern College. My teacher had a heart attack at Southwestern College.
I think you go around giving people heart
attack. That's what I'm saying. Would you come and I got Teacher of the Year at Chula Vista High School. That was weird, the first year. So I said, no, this is not working here. I mean, there's teachers here that should deserve this, right? So she goes, well, you can teach. I go, well, are you sure you want me at Southwestern College? She goes, yeah. I go, okay, I can only do it for 6 months because I got to get my PhD. Stayed there for 35 years. Now, here's the irony. I bought a house before I got that job at Southwestern College, never knowing I was going to be 5 minutes away from my job. Irony.
And what are some of your memories of Southwestern College?
Well, the first memory is one of the first students there in 1963 at Chula Vista High School. That's where it started. That was the first memory, right? A junior college was like a vocational school at that time, right? Junior college. My father goes, you're going there, right? Before you got to get your feet wet, Bill, because my brother went right to Standing State, but he knew that I needed this place to discover.
His goof off son.
Right, to discover the junior college stuff. So I went there, and then I guess life took me to L.A. I had a band, a rock and roll band. I was in movies. I was television. I was the first Jack in the Box clown.
Talk about that, because most people don't brag about that.
Well, Peterson, who had Food Maker at that time, was a San Diego State graduate, Okay. And so when Jack in the Boxes were opening at that time, there was McDonald's, of course, but Jack in the Box opened here in San Diego. The first one was in El Cajon. There was a guy named Oscar Mayer Wieners. Remember him?
Yes.
The wiener dog? There was a handsome little guy named Vincent from El Cajon. He was a gorgeous man. He was the first Oscar Mayer winner. So Food Maker, at that time, were selling hundreds of hamburgers at 19 cents, right? And so we were the first ones to go outside with a microphone and order. And so Peterson says, well, we got to do something. So I dressed up as a clown in Chula Vista the first time as a clown, as Jack in the Box clown. He goes, this is a good idea. I made up and, I'm Jack. And I had a box that I would come up. Hi, I'm Jack, And so that's how it started, And then Food Maker actually was a really good place to be because I would never starve because I could always eat hamburgers and cook a hamburger. And then I became a roving trainer for them. And I was always at a place where I could get a job. I washed dishes, I sold newspapers, I had 10 people working for me when I was 12 years old with my brother, selling newspapers and stuff, and shining shoes. There was all that work ethic, you know.
So nothing was beneath you.
Are you kidding me? No. And you know what? Every time I had a job, I'd say, well, if I leave this job, I can always cook hamburgers. I knew what I didn't want to be. I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I knew that I didn't want to be in Jack in the Box and smell like Secret Sauce all my life. You know, that was not, I don't care how much money. I knew that I didn't want to sell shoes because I didn't want to keep doing this, right? Yeah. I just knew, even though the money, I sold fine jewelry with an incredible family called Benjamin and Sons. I don't know if you know them. They were one of the best jewelers in Southern California. And they gave me a job, and I could sell jewelry to anybody. And I knew that I didn't want to do that and sit behind a counter all my life, even though the money was, investing in gold was good. That was not me, you know. So I didn't know what I wanted to be, except when in college I thought, okay, I found my place. I want to be a psychiatrist because I think everybody's goofy. I think I'm a little goofy. I got to find out what this thing called the brain is. And theater to me was always about behavioral science. It was not artsy-fartsy. It wasn't entertainment. It wasn't about me, you know. It was about finding people in a place of conflict and problem solving, and the good and the bad and the ugly. It's all in the theater. The kings, the queens, the dictatorships, the politics, the backstabbing, you know, the families, the conflict. In an hour and a half, you see a whole family in front of you. And that was, for me, a behavioral science. I studied with a guy named Richard Marino, which was the father of psychodrama in LA. And I did internships for Lockwood patients, crazy people that thought they were bowling balls and presidents of the United States. It was like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, okay. Which I did the play, and I played Martini. Okay, that's how weird it was, and I won an award for that, bringing all that experience that I had with psychodrama. But for me, theater was not an artsy-fartsy thing. It was a behavioral science, a psychological way to live life, right? It wasn't about people entertaining you.
So how did you become an icon in the Latino community?
Oh, I don't think I'm an icon in any. I don't think I'm an icon.
I think you are, but that's okay. We won't argue.
Thank you. No, you know, it's others. Others. Without others, I was a child that was carried from my mother to junior high, to elementary school, to high school, to college. And I had hands, wonderful hands, that kept passing this baby with love, care, and learning. You know, I had disciplinarians. I mean, I had hard taskmasters. My wrestling coaches were incredible disciplinarians. You know, they taught you discipline. They taught you the meaning of being a winner, you know, and not wanting to lose. So it's like you know, how blessed am I to be with you here. Nobody in our art, nobody does it alone. You know, in fact, I told my cast.
Any art.
No, until I told my cast yesterday. I hate to say this, but in the art, you know, in theater, it's not a democracy. It's a dictatorship. The director does it all, but he can't do it all without you. There's no way. So life is like that. Life is not about you anyhow. And you know, you and other people in my Latino community here, especially in San Diego, have been very kind and I guess very supportive of my craziness. The only thing I know, which I don't know a lot about, it's a little bit of the theater. And that is my politics, that is my life, that is my art. I know who brought me to the dance, right? My principal and I had conflicts, you know. He had a little racism in him and stuff, but he was this Marine guy. But you know what? I always thanked him because he got me my first paycheck. I always thank my president of the college who gave me my first house, right? I don't have to like them, but I have to respect them. And the community here brought me to the dance. And I'm still dancing, you know. I'm still dancing with my partners. I mean, we're 80, 90 years old and we're still dancing, you know.
What was the first Latino play you did?
Oh, my gosh. I think my first Latino play was a Carvadillo, Rosa de dos Aromas. It was a Mexican by Carvadillo. It was a Mexican play. But my first Chicano plays were the actos of Luis Valdez, Los Vendidos.
Yeah.
You know, No Saco Nada de la Escuela. They were the iconic Chicano when I met them. They were my agitprop. I became a Chicano with them. I became an activist. I'm a Mexican Chicano American, you know.
I know you did Suit, and that was a real risk because Suit was so well known.
Yes. You know, I'm blessed by people that say, here's my baby, take care of it. Luis Valdez never gave the rights to anybody. This was his baby, you know, he nurtured it. So Daniel Valdez became one of my best friends. And so I had a college, thank God, that had me play. You know, we had 17 World College premieres. We won all kinds of awards. And we brought Luis and Danny to the San Diego Rep. We brought them here. So I always wanted to do Suit. I had never seen it, by the way. You know, I usually never see plays that I've ever done. I don't like to do that. I've never seen them. You know, I like to do my own. Tommy, for instance, I never saw Tommy. We did, you know, Grease, I never saw, you know. I just did my own concept. I don't paint by dots. You know, I don't look at people's work and copy them. So Zoot I had never seen, but I wanted us to do it. My father was a dancer. You know, he danced when he was a young guy, you know. And so I asked just a while, I go, do you think we could do this? And he says, well, where do you want to do it? I go, well, I want to do it professional, but I want to use my students. And I knew that Luis loved education. So he said, okay. And he looked at my record and, you know, the history, and he goes, yeah, we'll give you the permission to do it. So we did it with SouthWestern College and San Diego Rep, and it was the first Zoot Suit production ever used live music. We actually had musicians on the thing. So we did at the 25th anniversary, we got the rights to do the first Zoot Suit at San Diego Rep. Thanks to the San Diego Rep and Sam Woodhouse and them, you know, again, the child is carried. And it was a great honor, and I still hold that as one of my treasures in my heart.
So why did you retire? Or when did you retire?
Well,
and have you really retired?
No, I'll retire when I'm dead.
Okay.
Artists never retire. You know, it's like painters paint themselves on the canvas. Guitarists go, you know, they just die. You know, and we in theater we just fade into the boards. You know, my iconic, you know, second father, Craig Knoll, at 92 years old, was still directing plays. You know, he had to be driven, but you never retire. You know, I don't know what that word is. You know, I mean, it's like, do you get a new tire in your car? You know, or you get retired? Do you get what? No, I don't see retirement. I mean, I've never. This theater, Teatro, Máscara, Mágica, which has been here for 40 years, right, has been my love. It's our voice. We do 3 or 4 productions, and we hope it's relevant to our community, right? So that's the voice that has really been stable in San Diego for a long time. And thanks to people like you and people like that support us, they come, you know, to San Isidro. You know, we have 4 generations of audiences in our pastorela.
Okay. I want to thank you. You've given us a lot of information, and I know you have so much more. But I also want to wish you luck with your new play. Give us the dates and the time.
Well, our pastorela is December 11th to the 21st. It's 7 p.m. the night performances. We have 2 matinees in the weekends, and we close the 21st. You know, and it's like I said, it's this family tradition. We have the piñatas for the kids, you know, and it's the tradition that started, like you said, in San Diego a long time ago. You know, where else can we do it? I mean, the Grinch and us and the Nutcracker.
Yeah. That's true. I hadn't thought of it that way.
You know.
Thank you, Bill.
Well, I want to thank you and thank this company, and I'm so humbled and honored to be here. You know, and I hope I didn't break any cameras, but the story is deep and full of humbleness and thankfulness for my life. You know, and at the end of the day, you know, who's going to be around when we all go through? Right? We'll all meet someplace in the heavens together. You know. I miss all my friends that have passed away. I mean, I still hear Memo Cavada's voice in my ear. Daniel Hernandez's voice in my ear. I still have those people in my soul, and they will always be part of our art.
Memo and you traveled together.
Oh my God!
And got in trouble together.
A lot, but we were two wild kids. In fact, Memo and Memo.
Oh, that's right.
Well, thank you, honey.
Thank you, too.
And thank you for being here.
Thank you for taking the time to tune in to the We Made San Diego audio-video podcast. Please subscribe. Visit our website, wemadesandiego.com, to learn more. My name is Maria E. Garcia. Adios.